And welcome to PM Express Business Edition. And you had the finance minister there talking about the Ghana's IMF program and, of course, the impact on the economy and the agreement that Ghana has reached with its bilateral creditors. I'll be getting economist Professor Peter Korte also to look at some analysis on this. And we're having a two-part show today on PM Express. You had the finance minister, we hear from an economist, Professor Peter Korte, and then our last part of the block, we'll be talking the Black Stars and what their performance of the game and what will impact on the larger economy, branding, marketing, the national team. And this course now, we understand, is a two interesting analysis. Let's get on to Zoom now and let's connect with Professor Peter Korte. He's an economist and the director of the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research. Prof, thank you so much for your time, for joining us here on PM Express Business Edition to talk about the IMF program. And for you, of course, do you think that, listen, what would this thing mean for the larger economy going forward in terms of this deal that we've closed with these bilateral creditors?
Yeah, so good evening to your discerning viewers and good evening to you all. This deal certainly has positive implications because nobody likes suspense. The suspense is creating anxiety among potential investors, potential people or bilateral donors and others who want to engage with Ghana. Even there are some projects that disbursements have stalled because of this deadlock. So with this agreement, I believe some of these things will then start happening. It also sets the tone for the Eurobond holders and other commercial creditors, because now that the bilaterals who form the majority in terms of having the framework and they normally drive the show, having set the tone, I believe the others will also play along. So for the economy, it's a positive signal, because at least we can put it behind us and move on and engage other potential investors, as well as get the economy running with the influence that might come from the IMF.
Prof, this is the bilateral agreement you're talking about. I mean, all other things being equal, and based on what we've picked out from persons with knowledge, we understand that the board is going to pass Ghana on this first review as well and approve a disbursement of about $600 million. For you, if we should pass this board review again, what could be the impact of that on the broader economy as well going forward, as well as the disbursement that will come in?
Well, one, there's going to be resource inflow. $600 million is good money. It will help shore up our forest reserves. So the money will go to Bank of Ghana, who will then convert the local currency for government to settle some of its obligations. So with the inflow, certainly money is like the engine or the oil of every engine. Once money flows in, if it lubricates the engine, and therefore the economy is likely to pick up based on this. Some contractors or creditors that are owed, I believe some of these monies will go to settle them. There are some stalled road projects. I believe some of these funds will also go into that. So the inflow itself is positive, and it's going to stabilize the foreign exchange quite a lot. It's also going to help. The rate inflation is also linked to the exchange rate. When the exchange rate is relatively stable, we see inflation also behaving in that manner. So it has broader macro implications for the economy. And when government is spending, it promotes further spending. It puts money in people's pockets. It helps create more jobs, etc. So this inflow is quite critical. Then also speculators. When there is a deadlock and the funds are not flowing in, some speculate and they speculate that, look, the government is going to be cash strapped. There's not going to be enough forests to support imports. So they convert local currency into foreign currency and hoard So that puts unnecessary pressure on the exchange rate, and that can also have negative repercussions on the economy. So, on a whole, the inflow is positive because it brings more money into the system, stabilizes the exchange rate, as well as reduces the turbulence on prices and inflation.
Rob, do you find this interesting, or it happens in the past since we've gone to the IMF 17 times? The bit that this particular tranche that is coming in is not going directly to support our balance of payment needs, but interestingly, it is going directly to the budget to support some project identified in the budget. And the minister, that's what the minister has even confirmed to us as well. Do you find this interesting, or listen, in the past it's happened before, so really much I do about nothing?
Well, this is not the first time. I mean, the IMF has evolved quite well over the past. Previously, it was just it's so fixated on balance of payment support, but realizes that, look, if you want to help a country, if you want to help a sick person, you provide, if it's medicine, if it's food, whatever the person needs, if you really want to help that person resurrect, that is what you want to do. So they have evolved and realized that sometimes it's not balance of payment support, but also they need cash to continue to basically revive ongoing projects that are stalled. They need money to pay contractors. They need money to support the budget. So it is not new, except that to say that the volume this time is much higher than previous instances where IMF has provided some kind of support. And we saw the COVID relief and some other reliefs that came that were not necessarily meant to support balance of payments.
Prof, what advice would you give to government in terms of, listen, how these money, yes, we've talked about budget support, but how should we spend this money or direct to the right sectors that would stimulate growth and see that cooling off? You've always had issues about, or raised concerns about what you call the jobless growth. Which areas should these monies, should be directed that would, again, stimulate growth and bring that cooling off that we all need, having seen that serious heat just last year on the economy?
Yes, these are not free monies. They have to be repaid. So I think one key thing is that we have to invest in productive activities. If it's road, then road that will help cut goods from the production areas to the areas that are needed. It will help cut goods from production areas to the ports for export, and many other things that will stimulate further growth, that will generate more income. You don't want to invest these monies into consumption. That should not be the way to go. If you invest in consumption, then when it comes to time to pay, we will not have generated enough resources to repay. You want to invest in productive activities. So that's my advice to government, to ensure that, yes, some of the stalled roads are good. The amount of time spent in traffic itself, if you should cost that is not good enough. It will enhance people's productivity if they spend less time in traffic. Traveling from Accra to Kumasi and many key areas where major food production areas are, if the roads are good, then certainly that is going to stimulate further production. Some can certainly go into agri support, credit, agri insurance, crop insurance, adding value to production. Now we even hear of planting for food and jobs 2.0. Some can go into that, but we should make sure that they go into the right areas and be dispersed to be the right kind of people who will produce to add to our agri production, add to our GDP, and also add value to whatever we produce.
How do we leverage on this? We've heard that other donor partners, even today the World Bank issued a statement saying that their board is going to meet next week, we understand June or January 25, to also consider disbursement of some $300 million as well as some $250 million for the Financial Stability Fund. How do we leverage on this fund approval or fund performance, i.e. demonstrating that fiscal prudence that we've demonstrated over the past month to stimulate investor confidence and donor confidence in this economy?
Yeah, the IMF, the World Bank has been a major supporter, a major player since Economic Recovery Program up to now. And they are sister institution to the IMF. So when the IMF takes a step, you see the World Bank also come on board to support and vice versa. So I think this move, this IMF program, paves the way for multilateral institutions like the World Bank to come on board and support. It also paves the way for other bilaterals. So DFID, the USA, and NORAD, and many others, once they are sure, once they know IMF is on board, they know there's going to be fiscal prudence. Once they know IMF is on board, they know there's confidence. Confidence is going to come. They know we will do the things, the hard choices that we should do on our own, but we refuse to do them. So that gives them the confidence, the impetus to come on board and support. So having signed this agreement, having engaged with IMF and gone this far, we are likely to see more come on board. But then we ought to do the needful. If we don't stick to what we have agreed on, the triggers, the indicators, we don't work to achieve them, we don't pass the reviews, then some of these things, as we've spoken about, might not happen, or they may start and they will stop. So government has to remain committed to ensure that the resources that we gain from all of this are channeled into very productive areas where we can showcase that these are the deliverables, these are the outcomes, and this is how much we have invested, and we are reaping from the benefits of this. We ought to be careful. We are in an election year, so we ought to be extremely careful the way we spend this money. We have come very far, and the pain, the bitter pills of the domestic and the debt exchange program is still fresh on our minds. So having been given this fresh opportunity, I think we shouldn't abuse it at all.
Are you convinced by the finance minister's assurance? And I remember we asked him in the interview about being extra prudent in an election year. And are you convinced, especially being under a fund program as well? You think they have to do more to demonstrate their commitment to fiscal prudence, especially in an election year?
Somebody will say the sweetness of the pudding is in the eating. If we see gradually towards the end of 2024, we see the numbers, then one can stick his neck out. I'm saying this because in 2016, we were on the IMF program. By August, September, our fiscals were very good. Our debt GDP, budget deficit.
The deficit, yeah.
The deficit GDP was around 5.5% in September, in October. Then by December, we were hitting 9-10%. So we were under an IMF program, yet things did not work out because there was an elections and the stakes were high. Similarly, 2024, the stakes are still high. We're still going to spend, except to say that having gone through the painful exercise of debt exchange, restructuring, and all the challenges, it is too early for us to forget this immediate past and behave like nothing has changed. And for me, I think the bitter lessons to help us to remain prudent so that we don't overshoot. And I've heard the finance minister promise this. I've heard the deputy finance minister, Honorable Abner Osasari, also make that promise that they're going to stick closely to what is in the budget. But I pray and hope that we will stick by that and achieve. If we stick to it, and there's enough resources coming in, if we stick to what is in the budget, I believe we'll be able to achieve a lot.
Let's quickly look at the terms that we've raised with our bilateral creditors. Could we have gotten more? There's moratorium over the next 3 to 4 years. We understand that negotiations are still going on. We could see something on the interest rate. Could we have gotten better? Or listen, from what we've seen that we reported, and even Bloomberg and the Minister of Finance himself has confirmed, Is it better? Moratorium 4 years? Likely that there might not be any haircut, or there could be some haircut as well.
Let's bear in mind that whatever we do now, Zambia, Ghana, there are other developing countries that are lined up for IMF bailout. So the creditors are watching closely. They are very mindful of what they do. If they give us a lot of concessions, it means they have to do same for all these other countries, and that is a lot of money. Mind you, for Eurobond and many others, these are people's money. Some have mobilized funds from individual investors and invested these monies in Ghana government bonds and etc. So they owe it a responsibility to pay back to these people, and therefore they are very careful how much concession they give, how much haircuts they suffer, and therefore I believe that, given the Zambia example, even Zambia is a low-income country, so they could even get better terms than us, being a low-income country. Given what Zambia got and given what we are getting, we can't say we can get anything better. I believe that's the best they could do, but they're also watching carefully those that are lined up for bailout, those that are recording worsening debt GDP ratio, those that are becoming bankrupt. Ethiopia and some other countries are basically on the verge of seeking support. They'll be downgraded and all that. So the international community is watching, and therefore what we have, I think, is good. Let's continue to push. Let's continue to engage them to, allow some interest, haircuts on interest, or concessions on some interest. And I believe, given what we have saved, we'll be able to rebound.
Prof, there are some who are still worried and looking at the way things are going, whether we'll still be able to achieve that debt sustainability at the end of the program. And even some are saying that looking at the way things are going, there could be the likelihood that we may have to extend this program by another year again. What are your thoughts on these concerns that have been expressed, i.e. extending the program again, and also possibly we may have to push for debt sustainability going forward as well?
Well, I think the program has helped us. If you look at the previous program, that is when we grew. We were able to manage the economy better under the previous program. And the current dispensation, we have seen that as soon as we entered into the program, we were able to reverse some of the worsening trends. So if we're going to extend by a year or two, so be it. Provided they are going to help us stabilize, they are going to help us take the hard choices that will help correct the imbalance. In terms of debt sustainability, the domestic debt exchange and other things that are happening, I believe, is gradually putting us on a sustainable path. And if we are cautious in how much we borrow, we add on, and we are able to grow the economy, I'm very sure our debt will remain within sustainable levels in the next 3 to 5 years.
Prof, we've seen inflation come down and everybody is excited about it and thinking that going forward, we could see that trend being sustained. But there are some 7 tax amendments that is taking off. GRA today issued a circular saying that it's kicking off, the effective date is January 1. There are some who are aware that, listen, these taxes that are coming up will further aggravate the cost of living and even affect the slowdown that we are seeing when it comes to inflation. Do you share those same concerns being raised about these taxes?
It's very obvious that these new taxes would generate some level of heat in the economy. Inflation is likely to be affected. Cost of doing business likely to be affected. But having said that, I think if we are also able to raise more revenue, we are able to stabilize the exchange rate with the inflows, we could basically strike a good balance and enable us minimize the negative effects of this high inflation that the taxes are going to generate. in the coming year. Let's also, we know oil prices are also going up gradually, and if it's not reversed, that can also generate further inflation in the economy. So, on the whole, if we're able to have a grip on the exchange rate and with the food production, given the figures we're seeing, the new taxes would generate some inflation, but we could also see some declines in inflation here. And on the whole, we may either see inflation coming down further or remaining stable at the current level in the coming months.
But why couldn't, some have said that, why didn't government maybe stay or even delay these taxes and maybe look at, after all, e-levy was there, delay, look at somewhere March, February, maybe then look at, so that inflation will come in down and it can absorb that shock?
Yeah, I was also quite uncomfortable with the new taxes because three new taxes were introduced, if you recall, and it's also affected cost of doing business. Yeah. Gradually, the private sector businesses are gradually adjusting to these new taxes, then to be slapped with new ones again. And I thought the timing is too short for the private sector to respond to some of this adjustment. I thought we could rather continue to deepen the steps taken to make tax collection efficient. GRA is increasing tax revenues. I mean, they are collecting more than they used to do. So we should do more of that and rake in more whilst we minimize the introduction of new taxes. I thought we should have waited for a while instead of introducing these new taxes.
Professor, I tried to wrap up with you as well. Let me look at for you your thoughts, outlook for this economy going forward. What are your expectations?
Well, the outlook for me looks better than 2023 because in 2024 or this year we are likely to receive the inflows. We are likely to, inflation is coming down, exchange rate stability is kicking in. With the inflows that has come, we are going to invest and ensure that growth picks up. Growth rate in 2024, all things being equal, will be higher than what we saw in 2023. So this is a positive signal ahead. In an election year, there's a lot of economic activity, there's a lot of spending. When there is spending, it fuels the economy, it makes economic activity flourish, and that ensures that the money goes to people's pockets. There's production and many other things that have the livelihood get improved. Except to say that if we don't manage the political business cycle, if we spend more than within our means, then we are likely to face challenges in the first quarter of 2025 and beyond.
Prof. Peter Kortei, I appreciate your time so much. He is an economist and a director of the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research. And don't go away, it is still PM Express. In the next 30 minutes, we're talking about the Black Stars, the economy, and also marketing, branding, football. How can we get it right? That's the game, I know you've been watching it, and I don't know, the scores was coming on air, it was 2-2. I don't know what it is right now. So we'll take a short break, right back, as we talk about football and the economy. Be right back after this break. Welcome back to PM Express. After talking economics, talking the IMF, we're still talking the economy, but the Black Stars came. And I know some will say how about 30 million coaches out there. But again, what happened just a few minutes ago and how that could impact on the broader economy going forward. If you had won this game, what could have been the impact on marketing, branding going forward for even the national team? And also the larger economy paraphernalia and all those things. And also what it will mean for businesses as well going forward. But I'll be joined on Zoom by Neil Armstrong, Motogbe he needs no introduction. For the purpose of this discussion, I'll do that. When it comes to a guru in marketing, sports marketing, business, promotions, and all those things. And also Tony Obeng, another strong finance and business person, but also had been on the Black Stars Management Committee and also the GFA Executive Council. Two distinguished gentlemen who appreciate football, who drink football, who eat football. Thank you so much for joining us on PM Express in our second part of the program as we discuss the program that is the Black Stars game. Neil Armstrong, Tony Obeng. Let me start first with Neil, and thank you so much for your time. How would you describe this game? I mean, we played quite well in the first half, but it appears we lost it in the second half, Neil. If Neil Armstrong is on. So, Neil, my question was that it appears we played so well in the first half, but what happened? Being somebody who eats drinks and watch football. Uncle Neil.
Second half, if you can hear.
What happened, Uncle Neil?
Yeah, I think I'll just sum it up by saying that we snatched a draw from the jaws of victory, conceding two completely very, very poor goals for the way the stakes were high and for the endeavor that the generality of the team showed, especially Kudus Mohammed coming in, for how hard Semenyo, the likes of Semenyo, Jiku, and others were working. I usually don't single out players for blame, but we all watched the game. We saw the elementary errors that gifted 2 goals to Egypt. Kudus fought for those goals. The team fought for those goals. And then we just gave the goals to Egypt. It was quite shocking. But yeah, these things happen in football, you say, but for players who play at the level that Inaki Williams plays, the level at which Bukari plays, these 2 errors are completely unacceptable. And I'm not going to mince words about it. But that said, I think today was a day where the team showed a fair bit of endeavor. Like I said, this should have been a game that we won. I mean, we should have won this game. And those were my simple answers to your question.
Mr. Armstrong, would you put this draw squarely on the players? I mean, our first game, somewhere trying to put the challenge on the bench, but would you put that this challenge was basically the players that are supposed to be professionals?
So you take the blame, I mean, as a team, you take the credit as a team. I mean, have gone on record as being very critical of Chris Hughton. I have felt that given the credentials with which he came into the game, into the job, I personally haven't seen him apply himself the way I thought he could have applied himself. Substitution, for instance, of this evening of Bukari coming on for Inaki and come to commit the same error. I mean, one would wonder what informed some of these changes. The first match we played, he did 3 substitutions at one point, and you were wondering what book was he reading from. So for me, that is why I would put a heavy bit of criticism on the coach. But today, I think the team stepped up much better than they've stepped up under him. First half, like you rightly said, was fairly good. Second half, we just seemed to come apart for some strange reason. But I would not want to go too much into the technical side of it. I think I've rendered my opinion on what I've thought about the work about the work of the coach, and I still think that he still has a lot of work to do to convince some of us that he's the coach to take us to the promised land. To be very honest, that's basically it. And if you follow the trends on a lot of the football pages that follow the game, it's the same commentary that you see. Everybody wonders what goes on. Yes, it may be a technical team, but he's the coach. The buck stops with him. What actually goes on? What are the considerations that go into some of these changes? It beats my mind. So you bring in Bukari, and 15 minutes later you take him off in an Africa Cup match against Egypt? There's got to be questions asked. But, I mean, a draw is better than a loss. Yeah. I don't think many Ghanaians gave too much of a chance to this team going into the game. And you need to credit those boys who really, really stepped up. I think some of them stepped up their game from the first match. There still is room for them to improve. And it's I'll say I like to look at the cup being half full and half empty. And today, I think quite a number of the players stepped up better than they did in the first match. We'll commend them. Where we think there should be criticism, I've done my critique. There's still a lot of work to do. Mozambique are not an easy side. They showed it against Egypt, so it's not a foregone conclusion that we can beat them, and we need to beat them to stand any chance of qualifying for the second round. First round exit in a tournament for 2 consecutive times would not augur well for our team at all. I would describe it as being completely unacceptable for a team of Ghana's stature and for the quality of players that we have. When you see them playing in their home bases, I mean, as in the foreign leagues, they seem to be a completely different prospect than when they come down. That also has to be questioned. And I'm sure we'll have time to talk about that on some
I'll
other
do that. And I'll come back to you again for you to put on your other jacket when it comes to sports marketing and all the rest. But let me get to one gentleman, even though we know him as being in finance, he also loves football, and that is Mr. Tony Obeng. I mean, he's been close to the Black Stars before on the management team and also on the GFA Council as well. And for someone who's been close to football administration, very close to the Black Stars as well, watching this game, for you, what are the notes that you were taking, or what do you think was the problem, Mr. Tony Obeng?
All right, thank you very much. And good evening to you and my good friend Neil. Look, a big brother of mine, Professor Asante, who was the president of the Methodist Church, Ghana, just sent me a message that what's wrong with our defense? Why do we play the way we play in our defense? And I totally agree with him. I've had the occasion of asking some of the coaches, why are we always playing from behind? Now, a player gets the ball close to the center circle, he takes the ball back. You know, discounting the risk that is involved in doing that. So all these goals that came, the 2 goals that came, were all efforts to bring the ball back before pushing the ball to the opponent side. I mean, and you get punished for that. I concede, and I totally agree with Neil, that this time round, there was a huge commitment of the players. They did extremely well. You could see that they had a desire to win. But look, the desire doesn't count. And look at the effort put in by Kudus to get us the 2 goals. It's like somebody tries to do the work and then someone also tries to destroy it. It's unfortunate. It's very painful. Just before we started, I tweeted that somehow I have a feeling that we're going to win 2-1. You know, so, and some of my friends who are actually trying to save their hearts. I'm not saying they don't like the blood. They are trying to save their heart. They say, no. Ghana is going to lose. The reverse will be the case. So when we got to 2-1, I thought I was going to win some, I was going to win some lottery for protecting right, only to know that we just get the ball back again and lose it. So it's very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. I don't know. I mean, it's quite unfortunate for us. I think this time, if you compare the effort of this set of players who played and that of the one that played, I mean, the same team though, that of our match with Cape Verde, I'm sure they did better than the one with Cape Verde.
Mr. Obeng, today I was talking to a friend who was telling me that, listen, if we should win this match, he was going out to get get the jersey and then all those things. Do you think that we have missed out on an opportunity to stimulate again when you were there? I don't know whether that time you were there, bring back the love for the Black Stars and also what this would have meant for the paraphernalia, the sales, and all the rest, and even stimulate interest. I knew people who were saying that if we should have won this game, they are making preparations to go to Cote d'Ivoire, those travels and all the rest. Did we miss out on this opportunity to get that love back and the other sectors of this economy when it comes to sales, paraphernalia as well, picking up?
I'll be very blunt. Yes, we did miss. And my interest in these high-level football goes back, and Neil knows. Neil and I, we have been in the trenches before when we did the first qualification for the World Cup. And we all saw what happened anytime the Black Stars won. And I tell you, if because of the anticipation of the country, if the Black Stars had won, it would have really had a major effect on these items that we spoke about, the paraphernalia. People would have just gone straight to the drinking bars. I'm not encouraging people to drink, but I'm sure the drinking bars would have been very, very full. And I think that we don't do the mathematics of all, we don't do the statistics. So we are unable to pinpoint figures to support this. But seriously, football has a major effect on the economy. Except that we have not, I don't think somebody regularly follows or pick data on the effect of our sporting activities on the economy. But I think that if you use proxies of other countries, other more organized countries, you would see that these activities have major effect on the economy. And so we somehow have missed out, unfortunately.
Is it all lost?
Now, I'm one of the very optimistic supporters of the national team. And I'm gradually losing the optimism in this particular competition.
No, but it's interesting. Somebody who has been, and I know Neil Hassan, I'll come to him, very close in the management position on council. You should be a chief optimist.
Yeah, that's what I said. I said I'm one of I tweeted and told my friends that we're going to win. In fact, I was on one of your programs saying that I think it's likely we're going to win. And so now if you don't win, you've lost your first game, you've drawn, so you have 1 point. Egypt has now got 2 points. They're not too safe though. You have one team that has 3 points. Now, 1, 2, 3, and they are going to play tomorrow. So it is not completely gone. We are not completely out yet. But now the pressure is on us to win against Mozambique, or even win massively, not just winning, especially if it gets to goal counts and all that. So it makes our job too difficult. If we had nailed this game, which we were very close to doing, then the burden on our players and on us would have been much less than the situation we find ourselves now.
Let me bring in Uncle Neil. I'll call him Uncle Neil. Armstrong Motorway, and let me now let you put on your marketing guru and your finance and all the rest. Has it been that difficult now to market our national team, to sponsorship and all the rest, and all those things now? And a performance like this, does it aggravate our issue in getting sponsorship on? We're looking at getting a better coach going forward. There could be agreements. And I knew the role you played in the past as well, where if a sponsorship come on board, they could say we'll take even half of the coach's salary and all the rest. Does all these things makes it difficult going forward to get these corporate bodies on board and even for it to trickle down to our Premier League?
Well, I think it's a question of what are the objectives of the corporate sponsors that we try to engage. And Doc made reference to the fact that when he was head of corporate affairs at Bullfields, we had a model where you just rightly referred to. Part of the sponsorship was dedicated to taking care of the coaches' salaries. And Doc played a very sterling role in that particular endeavor, that enterprise. Back to your question about how difficult does it make this? I mean, this FA over the last 4 years, coming into Kurt's second term, was able to increase the sponsorships to various properties of the FA by something in the region of 900%. So it's about the story that we take to them. Obviously, better performances will definitely inspire more interest or greater interest. But even when it was that we didn't seem to be doing that well, we still got some sponsors to come on board. I think the World Cup was a major attraction. That's Qatar 2022, but it took us qualifying there to get those sponsorships. So I would say that it does make things a bit more difficult, but when there's that level of difficulty, you need to tap into what are the objectives of a prospective corporate partner or sponsor, and then feed them a message that gets them to come on board. Let me go back to what Dr. led us to do in 2005. The objective of the company was to get a certain distinct, and then there were objectives that were or started achieving those objectives, the sponsor was motivated to continue supporting. At that time, the Black Stars were really nothing to write home about. We had never qualified for a World Cup. So when you have a company that has this vision also clear, and you can see that it ties in with probably your situation or your life cycle as a product or a brand, you're able to sell them a story that gets them to even join you, even in your difficulty. One last example, working with FIFA, there was a team that was made up of we were able to get them sponsorship using the story that they were reintegrating kids who have been child soldiers into the community, and they got sponsorship. So it's about recognizing what your situation is, pinpointing or aligning your situation and position with a company that has certain objectives, and based upon that, you align your objectives with the company, and you should still be able to generate some sponsorships.
But again, let me move you aside as not a Ghanaian, or if I can make that expression. Do you think that really we can make it past the group stage?
We can make it group stage. Chase, you want me to grade the team on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say they're about 6.5 to 7 over 10, which is a marked improvement upon what we saw in the game against Cape Verde. If the team can step up the same way they did to do a little notch higher, as much as Mozambique also showed the stuff that they are made of playing against Egypt, I believe that we can account for Mozambique, get 4 points, and then obviously it becomes a question of who are the other best third place finishers. If it is that it comes to that, we cannot predict what the results, for example, of tomorrow's game between Cape Verde and Mozambique could be. Tomorrow, Mozambique could beat Cape Verde and get 4 points. Cape Verde will be on 3 points, and Egypt will be on 2 points, and Ghana will still be on 1 point. We beat Mozambique in the last game, and then whatever happens between the other two, we should still be in the mix. So it's certainly, like Doc said, not a lost cause, but it certainly makes our work so much more difficult.
Let me bring in Dr. Tony Obin as well. Doc, I mean, I was able to watch the first half game, and it shows that the Black Stars can live up to the game. What did we get wrong in the second half? And from our performance in the second half, does it get you worried or think that, listen, George, maybe we have really come to the end of the road? Let's close the books here. Listen, Black Stars, we are coming home. Okay, so Dr. Niobin, what I was trying to say was that for you, that looking at the first half of this game, some have said that the Black Stars were able to live up to expectation. Now, looking into the second half, does it get you worried that, listen, George, maybe we cannot just progress? We've gotten to the end of the road. They're coming home.
Well, George.
Yes, you can go ahead, please.
Yes. Okay. I think that, when Mohamed Salah was taken off, I thought that was going to be some kind of a relief for us. I mean, psychological relief for us. And obviously, it was also going to ginger other players up to do his job. And when we got to 2-1, and I think it was around almost the 70th minute. So it was a good time for us to be able to manage and finish the game. So the lack of concentration that occurred in the last few minutes, very mind-boggling. But it happens in football. In football, it happens. And these players play in high-level clubs. They play in high-level leagues, and so you don't expect them to make these mistakes at this level. But of course, it happens in football. So. I don't know. I mean, we were all disappointed when the second goal came. You could see me here, hoping that some magic would happen so that we will turn the tables around. But anyway, a draw of 2-2 is better than maybe a loss like we did to Cape Verde. So I think we should take it like that. Unfortunately, it's a pain, but we have no choice.
Doc, it might be an unintelligent question or a suggestion, but it appears when it comes to money and investment in the national team, it's not a problem. Does it now boils down to the technical challenge that some would say that, let's go out there for the best of coach and expect that we deliver, or it's about commitment from these players?
Well, I think the FA, beginning from the last FA, I mean, I'm talking about the first 4 years of Mr. Kraku's administration, started something which I think needs to be continued. First, it established this it deepened the technical department where they brought in this coach, this very experienced coach as a technical director, supported by Professor Minta. And I think they should continue to do that and then try and build our own Ghanaian capacity, coaching capacity. And the practice where we take a coach for tournament, and after the tournament, we have to look for another coach. We need to look at that because some of the coaches that win trophies have been with the club for a very long time. I mean, with the team for a very long time. Look at Senegal. They had one coach for a very long time, and eventually he won them some trophies. So I think we need to look at that. And I mean, the changing over of coaches. We have a peculiar problem. Ghana has a peculiar problem, and the problem is that we have not been able to build the homegrown national team that will actually step out there to play. If you look at all the teams that are winning, the countries that are winning now, you have more than 40% of their players playing at home. El Hali is the bedrock of the Egyptian national team. If you look at the Mozambique team that did so well with Egypt, about 80% of their players are home-based. So our challenge is that we have very good players who are playing outside, but football is not tennis ball. It is not ping pong. It is not table tennis. It is a teamwork. So you need a situation where you have a teamwork. That's why I believe in the galaxies, which I chaired. We need to develop a strong galaxies who can step out when there is a challenge for Ghana.
Doc, in 30 seconds, Black Stars, AFCON going forward, your final thoughts? Do you think that there's hope? 30 seconds?
Well, the only thing left with us is hope. And so I still have hope. I mean, that is the only thing I have. It is hope. And I still have it.
Let me go to Uncle Armstrong. Motogbe, your final thoughts, Black Stars, AFCON going forward. In a minute, your thoughts.
Well, I've said that if we can, worst case, replicate what we did in the first half in this particular game, we should be able to account for Mozambique and put ourselves in a position to qualify to the second round. It's really about going back to that first half of this particular game against Egypt and replicating it almost dito. A little more focus, correct whatever little errors might have shown up in that particular first half. And I think that we can still go forward. It's definitely not go back to the button that we were pressing in the second half. That would not augur well for us at all.
Mr. Neil Armstrong Motogbe is a finance person, marketing guru when it comes to football. Dr. Tony Obeng is also a finance person when it comes to football administration. He's a guru. I know that debates will go on in your homes and offices about what best can we do for the national team for them to progress to the second round of the African Cup of Nations. My name is George Wiafe. I say let's keep hope alive. This has been PM Express Business Edition.